I think that was a good
Hi,
intro.
Alan. Hi. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Bobby. How are you?
Fine.
Good, I'm pleased. You're not going to show me up on stage, are you?
Thanks.
We good to go?
Yes.
Bobby, want to say
I will
anything
stay.
else? You stay there, be quiet. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to come here and talk to you in the Netherlands, and specifically Utrecht. It's actually my second time in a month here, and second time in 10 years in Utrecht, more specifically. What I'm going to do today is talk to you about my view of the future of recruitment technology. One thing this has given me is really great insight and the ability to keep my finger on the pulse in terms of what's current in recruitment. And my clients come to me and say, what should we be doing in and around the technology space? But one thing I don't have, and I'm really sorry, is I'm unable to predict the future. Sorry about that. I'm not a clairvoyant, I'm not a psychic, I'm not a shaman, but I do have a decent idea certainly of what's coming. And more importantly, I know what the very, very best companies are doing right now. Only 1% of them. So for many organizations, for me, the future of recruitment technology is actually what the market leaders are already doing. Here's a better quote than mine. So a guy called Thomas Jefferson, I assume you heard of him, ex-president of the United States. He said, I like the dreams of the future better than the history of the past. And this means a lot to me. I think always looking at what we've done historically and iterating on it and making refinements and small changes isn't the way we're going to change how recruitment works. We've got to dream big. We've got to have a dream of what we want to achieve in the future. What I'm not going to do today, I'm sorry, there's not going to be any magic quadrants. I'm not going to go a deep analytical study of the market and present lots of graphs and charts and percentages, partly because that's not me, and I'd be pretending to be somebody I'm not, but partly because I want to look at that dream of what the future looks like. So we're going to do a lot of talk about people, not pink and fluffy people, but people in our industry and people who are recruiters, they're candidates, they're hiring managers, people who, what they want to see, what do people want to see from the future of recruitment technology. And I think it's time for us to say goodbye to some of the dinosaurs in the technology space. So anybody who's building recruitment technology purely for the purpose of saving money, driving efficiencies, cost saving, automating processes is going to get caught up really quickly. It's so easy to replicate those things. I think it's really important that we think about how can this technology improve the lives of people, improve a recruitment process, improve an organization's ability to hire better talent for their business. And we hear a lot of time about people saying that the recruitment process is broken. It's an impersonal mix of over-engineered technology, overworked recruiters who aren't able to deliver a really human process. And I think the very best technology will help us solve those problems. And if we do only concentrate on cost, efficiency, automation, we're not really changing anything. We're just making things digital. And if we want that true competitive advantage, we need to kind of break the ceiling. We need to be forward thinkers. We need to do challenging and interesting things so we can solve some of those major problems. And brilliantly, there are some good examples of organizations that are doing that already, but they are few and far between. And we're going to go and talk about those in a second. So, meet John. The reason I put a picture of John asleep here rather than myself is because I couldn't find one that wasn't terribly embarrassing. You don't want to look at me, a picture of me drooling onto a pillow. It's not attractive. It's not something you want to see. But one thing that me and John share is we have a similar dream of a recruitment nirvana, so to speak. That doesn't seem to have gone very well onto the slide there. A recruitment nirvana. We dream of richer, more personalised experiences where candidates feel that the process is designed for them rather than them being shoved through a process. We both have a dream where recruiters know exactly who they want to hire, when they need to hire, what they need to hire, in advance of them actually having to start the hiring process. And it's one where candidates are sourced through highly engaging, personalised content that makes them feel special rather than part of a spammy mail shot that a recruiter's sending out to every single candidate in the database. And it's one where we use highly objective and unbiased scientific assessments to choose talent rather than traditional recruiting methods. And it's one where new joiners join an organisation raring to go, set up to deliver from day one. They're not worrying about where the toilet is or how to get a coffee or where their desk is or whether they're going to have a laptop. They're not worrying about how to get things done in an organisation. They know all that stuff before they join, and then they can concentrate immediately on tackling some of the big challenges that an organisation has. And it's one that's driven by data, driven by AI, machine learning, call it what you will. There's lots of buzzwords around at the moment, but driven by information that helps us all make far better decisions about whether to join a company or whether to hire somebody. And the beauty is, for me, the reality, in fact, of this is that this is closer than we think. There's already some great examples of organisations doing some of these things. Very few examples of organisations that are doing all of them throughout the process. In fact, if an organisation really wanted to, they could achieve all this today, in my mind. So we're going to walk through how and what an organisation needs to do these things. So step one of any recruitment process is knowing what you need to hire, when you need to hire, and more importantly, whether those people are available, and whether the market is rich of the type of candidates you're trying to hire for, or it's going to be a longer process because you're going to have to be uncovering lots of stones. Just going to do a quick interlude now to a brief piece of, you might call it animation, probably best not to. So, this is a typical conversation that happens every day in recruitment. You have an excited hiring manager, woo, Homer Simpson. We've just won a huge new client, so I need to grow the team. He's delighted, he's over the moon. He wants to get that team built as quickly as possible. You might recognise this chap as well, Peter Griffin, the recruiter. That's awesome news, well done, when do you need the new people? And guess what? Homer wants them on Monday of next week, which is a fairly common thing that happens. He's really excited still, though. He's over the moon. Peter's a little bit more pissed off now. Excuse my language. Why didn't you tell me sooner? How long have you known? Well, we did forecast growth earlier this year, but we know you guys in recruitment are busy. So I didn't want to tell you until we'd actually won the work. Which leaves Peter saying, Homer, you're an idiot. Hire your own people. I'm going to eat my way out of this despair. Nobody wants to be left with this situation. Recruiter sat feeding themselves to get over their misery, and Homer doing his usual dull thing. And it's very achievable. We can break the cycle of reactive recruitment. We can find a way of forecasting our organisation's hiring needs way in advance of them actually happening. Tools like Foresight, which is purpose-built. By the way, when I talk technology, I'm not advocating this particular technology. There are always alternatives as we walk through this. It's just the ones that I'm aware of and I know work. So Foresight is purpose-built to forecast recruitment requirements in a really unintrusive way that encourages hiring managers to engage in that forecasting process. But as well as forecasting requirements, you've also got the need to go out and do some market intelligence. Traditional search firms and traditional research firms can be very expensive when it comes to going out and doing market research. Technology like Horsefly allows you to do that at scale, at pace, for every single role you hire. Not just the very senior hires where you've got a $30,000 budget, but actually every single hire. Step two, let's go fishing. So you've identified the fact you need to hire. You've identified that the candidates, in theory, are available in your market. But now it's the case of going out and catching them, for want of a better phrase. A good friend of mine uses a fishing-based analogy where he talks about most recruitment hiring teams take a trawlerman's approach to fishing. So they have a big net. They cast that net into the sea and catch as many fish as they can. And then they go through those fish, sorting them, throwing away the dead ones, throwing away the ones that aren't right, throwing out the ones that are the wrong type of fish, and they're left with a small portion of fish that they want to then talk to. That's very, very time-consuming, very inefficient, very costly, and more importantly, for the candidates, very impersonal. And candidates are easily riled. If they're applying for a job, they want that job. So a no isn't what they want to hear. Many organisations don't even give them a no, so that's even less what they want to hear. The best hiring organizations are taking more of a spear fisherman approach. So they're going into the sea, they're identifying exactly the fish they want to catch, and they're catching those fish, and only those fish. So they don't have to have any they throw away. They don't have to have any they say no to right at the very beginning. They can engage with those candidates in a real deep and meaningful way. And tools that are available to help us do that. Whether you've heard of HireTool or not, HireTool is a tool that lets you research hundreds of millions of candidate profiles from publicly available data. So it looks at all your usual social networks, it looks at things like GitHub and Stack, it looks at Facebook, it looks at Indeed, it looks at reams and reams and reams of information from dozens of sources. And at pace will long list you hundreds, if not thousands of candidates that are a really good, strong potential match for your organization. But that's only step one, identifying your available market. The next bit for me is then how do you engage with those people? How do you encourage them to apply or talk to your recruiters? And talent pipelining technology like Candidate ID and recruitment marketing technology like Beamery allow you to deliver that really specific, that really engaging content out to them. And more importantly, help you keep track of whether those candidates are engaging with that content in a meaningful way. And then, of course, Dutch company, Vonk, recruitment marketing optimization technology. So I don't think the days of advertising are completely gone, but I think doing it in a much more scientific and specific way that means you can target the right people at the right time in the right places rather than a scattergun approach of just appealing to every single candidate in the world and hoping you hit the right people is the way forward, and Vonk allows you to do that. And the best hiring teams use all of this, but the best are probably 0.5%. There's a lot of opportunity here for hiring teams to grow. So step 3, you'll notice I'm a bit of an 80s kid, hence the various things like Homer Simpson and Terminator and stuff like that, and you'll see on the next slide. Finders keepers, you've identified the talent you want. Now you want to engage on a deeper level. They've started applying for roles. They want to find out more. They're interested in what your organization has got to say. And technology like Olivia by Paradox, which is described as an assistive intelligence bot rather than an AI-powered chatbot as such, allow you to start engaging with candidates as they have questions. So candidates have very micro level questions about roles very often that as a recruiter you think, why is this important? But it is important to that individual. The problem is if you've got 300 candidates all asking these micro level questions that take 2 seconds to answer, again it's very inefficient. A chatbot or a bot like Olivia can pick up some of that slack for you and be the front end recruitment administrator, recruitment service person who deals with those questions as they come in and deals with them at scale and at pace and can answer 1,000 at any one time, it can answer 10, it can answer 100. And because it's powered by natural language processing, it's able to get smarter and understand the vast majority of questions are happening. Even better, some of the best bots then support a candidate through the recruitment process. So they can organise interviews, they can make sure the candidate turns up on time, they get feedback from the candidate and the hiring managers and recruiters as they move through. And then we've got matching tools like Pocket Recruiter. So Pocket Recruiter is powered by, and I'll get this right, advanced machine learning, and it basically is that smart that it can read a CV, it can read a job description, and not using keywords, but actually understanding both of those two things, match candidates together. So if you've got a database of talent of tens of thousands, whether that's your own or a CV database you've got access to, Pocket Recruiter can go to that database and instantly longlist candidates for you in seconds. So it's the work a sourcer or a researcher will sometimes take days and hours to do, and it's very laborious. And if they're anything like I was when I was a sourcer, they kind of give up after a couple of days or so. If they've got a nice list of, say, 20 candidates, so that's enough. With something like Pocket Recruiter, it's never enough. It can keep going and keep going and keep going until it gets that really finite match for you. And last but not least, maximum return, more 80s stuff, Millennium Falcon. So I'm quite passionate about how we assess candidates and kind of democratizing that recruitment process and making sure the best person for a role actually gets the role. Not the person with the best written CV or the best network, or the person who knows somebody who works there, but the very best person, the person with the best aptitude, the best skills, the best attitude, the best way of applying themselves, and the best cultural fit for an organisation. Tools like
Alan,
Cognisys.
you have 2 minutes left.
Thanks. Says 3 on the counter. I'll hurry up, Bobby. And tools like Cognisys allow us to gather that kind of data at scale through a gamified assessment process, which means you get a high level of completion from candidates. They enjoy it. Because they enjoy it, because they complete it, it's accurate. And because it's powered by, again, AI/machine learning, the amount of data it gathers together and the amount of data it's taken to take into consideration when matching is amazing. And finally, another Dutch company, Apical. Onboarding is also something I'm very passionate about. I think so often recruitment stops at the point somebody accepts an offer, and then it's handed over to the HR administration team or a HR business partner or a hiring manager. And there's a big gap there where a candidate sometimes feels like they're in limbo. And I think it's really important that we improve that process, and tools like Apical can help with that. So they start the onboarding process from literally the point somebody says yes, and start to deliver to them really engaging content and stuff that's going to help them learn how an organisation works, how you get stuff done, all the acronyms and abbreviations that are in an organisation, and just mean that person starts on day one in a way that they can add value from the very beginning. So quick review then. I want to do a bit of quick audience participation for the last minute if we can here. So as I go through these, if your organisation is using these already, stand up or put your hand up, I don't mind. So who is crowdsourcing data at scale from hiring managers to forecast recruitment needs? Anybody? Nope. Sorry, I can't see very well because of the light. Stand up rather than hand up. I think it might work. Brilliant. So one person out of a couple of hundred. Who is using publicly available data to research the market and see if the people we actually want to hire exist? That's better. Yeah, a few more of those. Okay, excellent. And who's using AI-powered data aggregation tools to identify specific candidates? A few less, a lot less, in fact. Who is engaging with candidates through highly personalised content and targeted marketing? That's good to see. That's better. That's probably around half the room. And who's using chatbots to personalise support to candidates throughout the recruitment funnel, not just at the front end? Okay, 1, 2 maybe. And who's using smart matching tech powered by machine learning to shortlist candidates? Okay, a couple again. And who's using gamified assessments to assess candidates throughout the recruitment process? Okay, you're doing a lot of stuff, sir. Yeah, you're very good. And finally, who starts the onboarding process from the moment somebody joins, and who's using technology to power that? Perfect, thank you. We're over time. So one last thing, I'm going to whip through these really fast. For where I think we are heading, CVs, resumes will disappear very soon to be replaced by far richer data. Chatbots will become more powerful, more personalised, and more supportive. Blockchain, who knows? Don't ask me about blockchain. I don't have a clue about blockchain. I don't understand it. AI, machine learning will get smarter. Virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality will become an everyday reality. Pun absolutely intended there, rather than just a niche. Gamification will go beyond simple games towards deep immersive experiences that give more powerful data. Recruitment processes will shorten dramatically, and access to opportunities will be democratized. I think most importantly, people will have better, richer and deeper conversations with each other, meaning that whole process is improved. And I shall leave you on that. Don't predict the future, shape it. Thank you everybody. Thanks.
Zet donderdag 22 november 2018 in jouw agenda. Want dan vindt de 4e editie plaats van het Recruitment Tech Event.